sermon for Friday evening, July 5th. Hope you all had a great 4th of July. And let's talk a little bit about a situation that's going on in current events. Now, usually for sermons, I take the current Torah portion and expand on how some of the points in the portion relate to our daily current lives. This is how we imbue spiritual inspiration and make Torah relevant. It's also how we enhance our Shabbat experience with thankfulness for Hashem's involvement in our lives. Today, I feel a need to depart from the usual structure and talk a little bit about current events, a specific current event. The political landscape has become, it seems, more and more unfriendly to us Jews. And this latest incident, in my opinion, just continues the downhill slope towards disrespect. I feel that it is important to address these issues every now and then when they come up, because awareness may help us to intervene before they become more prominent. In our current political environment, it has become a strategy of political parties, political sides, to present or spin, as it's called, certain situations in a certain way to demean opponents in order to gain political advantage. Conditions at these detention centers, these are the ones with the immigrants, have become allegedly exaggerated for that purpose, and here's where we Jews become involved. Many of you are aware of a certain freshman congresswoman comparing the detention centers holding the influx of people seeking a better life in our country and concentration camps in the 1940s that facilitated the murder of our people. In using that language, she is insinuating a comparison between our government's attempt to manage the flow of people to the Nazis' organized efforts to house Jews during the 1990s and find ways to mass exterminate us. Obviously, she was using the hyperbole to make a point. As a side note, as Jews, we believe in helping the downtrodden achieve fulfillment, so we as a people would generally be sympathetic to their cause. Unfortunately, in this case, the sheer number of people seeking asylum is overwhelming our immigration system. Our government agencies have been doing what they can to accommodate these people, but because of the volume, resources are stretched thin and people are suffering. Her comparison, concentration camps, detention centers, upset some Jewish agencies like the Anti-Defamation League of B'nai B'rith and the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum. They came out and expressed their dismay and outrage at the comparison. Now, instead of making an apology, or at least an explanation, the Congresswoman rationalized her points by doubling down and looking to justify her points. Other Congresspeople came to her aid. Some even went so far as to try to define concentration camp in terms that would support and justify her claims. The real height of this offense came with a letter signed by hundreds of historians, self-proclaimed experts in the Holocaust, and mostly from academia, to the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum, asking them to reverse their opposition to these comparisons. The tragedy is that while some of these historians were not Jewish, some were. A few even teach at universities in Israel. It is outrageous, however, that these people would challenge an organization that is specifically set up to commemorate and educate about the Holocaust. To quote another famous Jew, Rodney Dangerfield, "We don't get no respect." Well, yes, we get no respect. Many people are familiar with the current situation of a sneaker manufacturer issuing, for the 4th of July, a special commemorative sports shoe with the first original flag of the United States, Old Faithful, on the sneaker with the original 13 stars. So an African-American football player became incensed that the company would post such an offensive gesture, considering that this company was founded on the backs of slave labor of his people. Outrage by minorities is commonplace. College students dressing up for Halloween are excoriated for wearing a sombrero and a fake bushy mustache. Some political figures were called out for using blackface as a gag during their college days, reminiscent, by the way, of a popular black comedian in the 1970s saying he used white shoe polish to infiltrate white society as a stunt. So with all this sensitivity towards disadvantaged people, one would think it would apply to all minorities. This congresswoman who started this is, in fact, a minority herself. For some reason, people take issues whenever we, Jews, get sensitive about a topic. And isn't it interesting that as barely 2% of the U.S. population, we aren't considered a minority, let alone disadvantaged? A 93-year-old Holocaust survivor offered to take said Congresswoman on a tour of Auschwitz, kind of show her the reality. This would be the same tour that a certain congressman from Iowa, other party, himself castigated for outlandish remarks about minorities, took. She, however, declined. Many pictures have been published on the media about the overcrowding of these immigration facilities. We see many people sitting around looking pretty forlorn. Wouldn't it be interesting to put some of these pictures side by side with pictures of victims and survivors from the Holocaust, emaciated people, clearly undernourished in squalid conditions? One would think the contrast would quiet even the most stubborn critics. Then again. So, how does we as Jews overcome this disrespect for our tragedies? Simple. We need to stick together. While there are indeed groups of people who are sympathetic to our cause, and we certainly appreciate that, we are our best reinforcement. Stay close to your synagogue and get involved with your people. Perhaps not all the time or even majority of the time, because let's face it, we live in a secular world, but we have a distinct identity and we need to sustain that. We have survived depression by 1800 years. We've done it by sticking together and keeping to our heritage. In our more liberal society, we can let our elected officials know how we feel. To paraphrase Hillel, if we are not for ourselves, who will be for us? If not now, when?